Hello everybody. Something I wanted to talk to everybody about today. Plate tectonics is bull crap, and here's why. So I'm going to go down here to Google Earth. Watch this. There are 6 primary vortices on our planet. You have the Arctic vortex, the Antarctic vortex, you have the Pacific oceanic vortex, as I show here. Then we go to the Sipaliwini vortex here, on that equatorial region. And then you have the Lake Victoria vortex here, and then we come over to here and we have the North Banda Basin vortex right here, which is a pentagonal vortex, by the way. Don't pay attention to that big circle that looks like Indonesia. Not right now. I have answers to that for that later. And now we're going to go around this little planet thing here and look at some of the things we have. Notice that at these 45-degree radial circles that I have going around each one of these vortices, it just so happens that the Pacific Oceanic vortex goes right up through the Gulf of California, right through San Francisco, right along with, let me think for a minute, San Andreas Fault? Come on now, folks. It's a vortex. It's going around. In this instance, it's going around counterclockwise. They don't all go around counterclockwise. So, as this vortex in the Pacific is going around counterclockwise, its mate on the other side of the planet will go across the North Pole, which ends up becoming, Lake Victoria. So we're going to spin this around. Actually, I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and click on this N right here to get north going back up. There it is, Lake Victoria, right? Lake Victoria is on the other side of the planet. And in this instance, Lake Victoria is going clockwise. So if I rotate the planet now, so we're looking at the North Pole, that means that the Pacific Oceanic plate is rotating in this direction toward my right, or to the right of the screen, and the other vortex, which happens to be in the middle of Africa, is rotating in that same direction. They rotate in the same. Why? Because they're connected by a core. Each one of the equatorial vortices has a core that connects to the vortex on the other side of the planet. That's right, it goes right through the core of our planet. Does that mean that there is no core like a rock in the planet? No, it doesn't. It just, the energy goes through the core. Don't ask me how it does it. It works. The planet is gyroscopic. This is what I'm trying to tell everyone right now. The scientific community needs to listen to what I have to say, because the Earth can come to life at any time where these vortices that are currently active at this very moment as I speak will affect the crust, and the crust begins to spin around. All right, now we're coming back down over here to Africa. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer to Africa if I can get my Google Earth right. Now I'm going to double click on that bugger. Lake Victoria, you see my little pin right there. Okay, so if I zoom in on Lake Victoria, right about where my pin is, you follow the spiral density fracture. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a river. Maybe it might even be a few rivers. Excuse me, Doodle, excuse me, I'm talking over here. No, I'm the one okay, enough with Doodle. You follow the spiral going around. Follow my cursor. You see that? Ooh. Here it goes again. Ooh. What does that mean? It means that Africa, ladies and gentlemen, is spinning or rotating in this vortex, is rotating in a clockwise manner. Notice that over here we have another vortex. This is the North Banda Basin vortex over here in Indonesia. It's going counterclockwise, ladies and gentlemen. This vortex at this pentagonal point is rotating this direction right here. That means that the tangent of these two vortices at their perimeters of 45 degrees are flowing tangents because they're moving together. They're not going against each other. Notice how India so finely meets. India didn't come up from the south or the equator and go slamming itself up into the Himalayas. That's another story. I'll explain it later. The Himalayas is actually a tsunami that ended up coming down. Yes, that's right. I'll explain it later. I told you I will explain it. And you can sit there and argue with me all you want, all you scientists out there. It's time that we started waking up and started doing some real science on our planet. All right, so India did not go did not move from the south, did not come up from the equator anywhere down here and go slamming into China. It didn't happen. China moved down over India. Okay, we'll come back to that later. Now, when we come over here to my little curlicue thing going on here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you right now that the Earth is peppered with meteor craters. That's another story. We're going to talk about meteor craters later. But all you see right here, yeah, that's from a meteor. Now, that's a whole different story and doesn't really have a whole lot to do with here, but I'm going to tell you right now that the meteor that created this vortex that we now call Indonesia is, or has, a binary relationship with the primary vortex down here where we refer to it as the Banda Basin. And if you look at the south pole of Jupiter, Jupiter has a pentagonal formation in its cloud or gaseous structure, right? So if Jupiter has that, what is it that causes it? We already figured that out. Scientists were actually doing some work right there. It had 5 other vortices around the core vortex. So what does that tell you? It tells you this particular activity was extraordinarily violent and fast. It had a horrible, horrible strong current to it. We're talking about the Earth becoming or entering into a state of worldwide liquefaction. Okay, that's all on that other stuff, but it also has a lot to do with the 6 primary vortices in our planet, which create or make up the 3 vortical rods. You have the polar vortical rod going from the Arctic to Antarctica, and then you have the, we'll call it the Pacific Lake Victoria vortical rod, and the North Banda Basin and Supaliwini vortical rod. Now I'm going to go over here to Supaliwini here. Oh, get me my north thing going on again. Come on, get that thing to click right. All right, Supaliwini is this forest area right here. Right here at the tip of my little mouse. That is the center of our vortex in South America. It comes, you notice here, it kind of gets this going. Ooh, look at that. All the way around. Oh, hey, what's this here? It's a spiral density fracture, ladies and oh, no, it's not. It's the Amazon River. Yeah, it's also a spiral density fracture for South America at its core vortical point right there in the middle of the Supaliwini, whatever the heck, forest down there, right? All right, folks, and that's in Brazil. Well, almost completely out of Brazil, right? Well, anyway, doesn't matter. So that's telling us what? It's telling us that South America is, or the South American continent in the center of this Supaliwini vortex is rotating in a counterclockwise direction. Right. That doesn't answer for the separation between Africa and South America. So Africa was at one point in time, it actually looked more like this. Okay, back in the day, Africa was a little bit more like this toward the equator, with the equator down here, right? And then you had, okay, try not to make everybody dizzy here. All right, now South America went and wrapped up around in between here, and Madagascar fits right into that little thing. South America comes into there, and then we have Antarctica with his umbilical cord coming around here connecting to South America. Then that umbilical cord starts to stretch out and straighten out as it comes across this fracture, this vortical fracture around the Antarctic continent. Okay? This particular section of Antarctica is Antarctica's most prominent spiral density arm. All right? Antarctica has like 4 spiral density arms, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because it's at the center of a frickin' vortex. That's why. And so it looks like a galaxy. Why? Because it has the same properties as a galaxy that has spiral arms. It's the same thing. Physics repeats itself. Work with me here, right? Check or hold. Wake up, folks. We got to smell the roses, okay? So here we got Antarctica coming around. You see that little swirly cue going, woo! So this one is going that way, right? And this one's going that way. It kind of looks like a blade. And then you've got this one, which is another spiral density arm coming out right there. This is a spiral density arm. This is a spiral density arm. And then you have another spiral density arm out here. Very interesting, right? Going around in circles. Forget about this stuff right here. All right, so why is it doing that? Notice that it's rotating in a counterclockwise direction. And you know what, folks? That is the opposite direction that the planet is rotating. And I can explain that to you later. It just happens to be that all DRCBs, and when I say DRCB, what the hell is a DRCB? A DRCB is a Differential Rotating Celestial Body. What does that mean? That means that takes all of the round balls floating in outer space and puts them into one category, ladies and gentlemen. That means stars, terrestrial planets like Earth, black holes, white holes, okay, which are still going to look like black holes because, you know, they're always going to be a lower luminescence than their surrounding stellar mass, okay? And then you're going to have the other one. Oh, gas giants. They all have the same gyroscopic properties. These are the things I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. I meant to have those slides open, but I don't feel like looking for them right. Well, maybe I will look for them. Let's see. All right, let me see if I can pull them up right quick. I don't want to keep you for too long. All right, so I'm trying to see impactor. Yeah, that's not it yet. All right, going down through here. Okay, we're not talking about that one. Siberian asthenospheric. Nah. Well, we could talk about the Siberian asthenospheric. That's a whole different story. That's actually the one that created the Himalayas. That's right, it created the Himalayas. Okay, now we're going down here. You know what? It looks like I'd have to go back way too far. Yeah, I would. Okay, so I'm just going to set it up here. I have a lot of files, folks, a lot of files and a lot of folders, so I'll have to do the research some other time. I will be more than happy to show you Jupiter and show you how these vortical properties work with Jupiter. Jupiter's a little bit different than the Earth and the Sun. The Sun is exactly like the Earth, just as I'm showing you right here on my screen. It has the exact same vortices. And guess what? Its polar vortices are rotating in the opposite direction than the Sun's solar, because you can't call it planetary, the solary rotation, right? The sun's rotation is going as we go in the same direction that we go, which is prograde. Okay, I can explain why the planets mostly go prograde, but I'll tell you that some other time. All right, so right now we're talking about these vortices, and I was trying to show you, I already showed you Antarctica, I showed you Lake Victoria, how it's got the little swirly Q going on in there. I showed you, I showed you North Banda Basin in its binary relationship with the vortex. It isn't necessarily a primary vortex, neither is it a primary vortex. It is a vortex created by an impact. Okay, that's how large some impactors can be. In this particular instance, I'll tell you that later. I also calculated at least the slightest or the least amount of size that meteor or asteroid, I don't care what you call it, it's a freaking rock flying in outer space. Excuse me, hey, excuse me. I'm barking. No, this is my bark. Quit barking. No. Shh. Psst. Dog whisperer. Psst. Doesn't work. Well, anyway. Okay, now we're talking about Australia here. Okay, let me tell you this right now, folks. Australia is a part of Antarctica, or at least was at one point in time. It's the only part of our planet that originated with Antarctica. Everybody else, all the other continental masses, began up here around the North Pole. And the North Pole was not originally right up and around here where it is today. It migrated. It migrates continually. And there are, believe it or not, helices in the Pacific Ocean that can be traced to where this migration and how this migration moved from maybe its original position to where it is now. Original being only going back 4.4 billion years before present, when our oldest rock known to us began to exist. And that would have been after the planet reached its planetary sutures coming together. That's right, planets are like babies. They have planetary sutures. They come together. They're all bulby and blah, blah, and they don't really do anything, and they're all mushy, and then they just kind of seal up and connect. And then and there you go. You got a solid planet. Well, at least it looks solid. All right, so now that's what we've got right here, right? And this little sticker right here, that's telling us where the center of this Pacific vortex is. Now I'm going to tell you something before. I have two things I want to go with. I'm going to show you how these vortices work. You have smaller vortices, but you have the 6 primary vortices that are always there. Just like Jupiter. Jupiter has 6 primary vortices, but it also has a trillion, jillion other vortices. Well, we have a few examples of that, but these are the best examples because they're absolutely the largest. So you have Antarctica rotating counterclockwise. Notice as I come north to New Zealand, I'm rotating counterclockwise. Antarctica's rotation is now rotating the New Zealand vortex clockwise, which is in turn rotating the Fiji Island vortex counterclockwise, just like that. You see how that works? Which is in turn also married up with the North Banda Basin vortex, which is rotating clockwise. Imagine that. Isn't that interesting? Right. Clockwise. Okay. So, there you have it, right? Now, got a lot of fun stuff going on right here. Okay, now we're coming over here, right there, so we're going back to Africa now, right? All right, now we're going to see this stuff here. Now, that pretty much just narrowed it down. But here's the other thing I wanted to say. One last thing before I close out this gizmo right quick, right? I'm trying to tell you right now, you got four equatorial vortices. These 4 equatorial vortices are anticyclonic. That means they're sucking everything in. Don't go fishing in Lake Victoria when the Earth decides to become active on its surface. That would be a bad day, okay? You talk about the black pearl going down to the underworld and stuff during that whirlpool. Yeah, it's about like that. And I can tell you right now that if the ice were to completely melt on our North Pole, if that ice sheet goes away, guaranteed you're going to find a maelstrom up there. Which direction is that maelstrom going to flow? Counterclockwise, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to flow in the opposite direction than the planet is. Wait, is it counterclockwise? Oh no, I take it back. My bad. Clockwise, because the planet's rotating this way, so the planet is rotating counterclockwise. Looking at it from the north, on the North Pole. So that means that vortex is going to be going clockwise, just like you see, just exactly the same way you see the spiraling down toward the South Pole of the continental masses. Yes, the continents migrate in a spiraling southward formation, which is also very relative to the virga in our clouds. So I refer to them as continental virga. Okay. We'll get on to that. So that's another subject. So you have the anticyclones at the equator sucking everything in. And guess what? They're sucking it all in right toward the center of the Earth because of gravity. Gravity, in its most simplest terms, people, is the vacuum of space. Period. That's it. No other terms. Yeah, that's right. So what is anti-gravity? Well, centrifugal force. Oh my God. So you're trying to tell me that when I vacuum the floor, I master gravity? Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. We have centrifugal force we use to create a false sense of gravity in our space stations, or at least it's a theory, right? I don't know if they actually I don't think they actually have it in operation, but I mean, we even have sci-fi movies playing that type of role. Hello, it's anti-gravity. Ta-da, we already figured it out. Come on now, let's wake up here, folks. We were supposed to be living on the moon in space 1999. Yeah, that show. God. So anyway, the equatorial vortices suck it in. Well, where does it go when it gets sucked in? It gets pooped out the poles, ladies and... Oh, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? So you get something that comes... What else poops out the poles? Oh, yeah, magnetars and pulsars. They all kind of like to poop out the poles, too. That's because all that energy gets sucked in, goes boop, right out the ends, both ends. It gets a little bit worse down south toward the worst end because it's tighter down there than it is upstairs. And that's got to do with how the body sets in space itself. The base of our planet is the South Pole. The head of our planet is the North Pole. Now, if you're familiar with the blackbird, the USAFE's blackbird, I think it's kind of like he's been mothballed now. But its engine cones are pointed in toward the nose of the aircraft like this. I'm telling you, the North Pole, ladies and gentlemen, is pointed in toward the parallel line, very close to the parallel line of the galactic plane, and if the galactic plane, okay, this is the black hole, right? They're pointing in like this. I'm going to show you like that. They're pointing in like that. One of these angles has got to be the right angle. And they're flying around it. Hello? Aerodynamics. Oh, it couldn't be aerodynamics, not in space. So we'll call it spatial dynamics. All right. It's going around. That's the nose. The North Pole is the nose of our planet. It's the nose of the sun. It's the nose of almost every planet in our solar system. Why? Because the solar system is on a plane going like this, going around our galaxy. Hello, just like it's flying. Oh, that's a novel thought. Well, that's a lot of other stuff. Okay. So, what happens when you get all this stuff getting sucked in and pooped out? All right, well, in the north, you get the lighter material. In the north, you get the marshmallows that go into your coffee. And that marshmallow crap turns into continental masses like we're familiar with. Pangea. Yeah, Pangea didn't start on the equator, ladies and gentlemen. It began in the North Pole, where it got pooped out as a lighter material because of centrifugal force. Now, we go down here to the South Pole. Well, what was in the South Pole? Antarctica. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Antarctica is the hot chocolate and the sugar of the planet. Yeah, that's right. The hot chocolate and the sugar of the planet. So, pretty much your heavier masses of garbage are down here. Waiting. Okay? And, yep. And that's right. Australia was also a part of Antarctica at one time. So that's what we have, ladies and gentlemen. You've got that's what these DRCBs do, and I can tell you a lot more about black holes and white holes, and at least as far as my theories work. But they all are gyroscopic, every one of them. And I have a photograph of the sun. I'll explain it some other day when I should. Oh, I don't know what there is to explain. What you're going to see on my picture of the sun is exactly what you see right here. The only thing that changes are the odd flashes of the coronal mass and things like that. And the picture wasn't even about that. It was about two other weird things going on the sun. All right. So anyway, that's it. And so, hey, cheers and jeers are welcome, as I had a friend tell me I should use. I like that too. So it goes together. He's very clever. Cheers and jeers. They're all welcome. Give it to me. And I'll tell you what. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the things that I have going on. I have other videos that are maybe not quite as forward. I'm kind of getting tired of being booted around like I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. And oh, by the way, I do have a clue what I'm talking about. I know the difference between a frickin' volcano and a frickin' crater. Yeah, I mean, come on now. Yeah, I'll show you a volcano. Where'd it go? Yeah, we're getting really close now. Oh, I don't know if that's a volcano. Wait, what was that? Oh, no. Did that just say... Oh, there it is. Getting real close now. I don't know, guys. Ooh, it clicked up. Mount Rainier is a massive stratovolcano. No. It looks like a pimple. Oh, that must be a volcano. Well, Turkey has a lot different ideas of what volcanoes are, and I could show you that stuff later. But I think I know what a freaking volcano is, and I also know what a dadgum impact site looks like. So that's the world's worst. It might not be the largest, but is for certain the worst impact ever to take place. And oh, by the way, it occurred during the last, was most recent. This was the very last event to take place, and it occurred during the Jupiterian 9-stripe period. That's right, I just said Jupiterian 9-stripe period. That's the period we live in currently. 2 world-class impactors have hit this planet during this period. Why do I call it a Jupiterian 9-stripe period? Well, because I'm telling you. Now listen to me, all you scientific folks out there. All right? The faster you stir that frickin' cocoa and you got cinnamon in it, the tighter them little cinnamon sporals come up, right? Okay, so come on now, put some cinnamon into your thoughts here about the planets, okay? The more Jupiterian stripes you have, the greater or the faster the rotation of that particular body. So everybody in our solar system is rotating at 9 Jupiterian stripes, like as if it were a speed. If it's a speedometer, it's a planetary speedometer. Okay, I'm from the south, so that's the way. No, I'm not from the south. I'm from the gorge. All right. So anyhow, here's what we're looking at, right? Okay. So now before that we had 11 Jupiterian stripes. Okay. So 3 world-class impacts ago we had 11 Jupiterian stripes, and approximately 4 world-class impactors ago. That's right. So about once every 1.1 billion years, we get hit by a really large frickin' rock from outer space. Well, anyway, 4 impacts ago, the Earth was rotating at 13 Jupiterian stripes. So somewhere within the last 4.4 billion years before present, the Earth has decelerated in its rotation, which means the sun decelerated in its rotation, which means our parent black hole of the 3 black holes at the core of our galaxy rotated and decelerated since that point in time. So you think about it. Give it some time. Give it some thought. You can't sit there and punch a top on a table and expect that thing to just go and go and go. It slows down, and then that top falls over. Well, eventually our top might slow down to a and then who knows what happens, right? But the possibility is there, and there's a lot of other possibilities. My main point today, to get to everybody, was to talk about the 6 primary vortices. In summary, the 6 primary vortices are the Arctic vortex, the Antarctic vortex, creating the Arctic-Antarctic vortical rod. Then you have the Pacific Oceanic vortex, along with the Lake Victoria vortex, creating the Pacific Oceanic Lake Victoria vortical rod. And then you have, last of all, but not least, the Sipaliwini vortex, connected to the North Banda vortex, creating the Sipaliwini North Band vortical rod. North Banda Basin vortical rod. Okay, so anyway, you got the idea, right? Now, how much more do I have to tell you people that the planet does not function on plates? There are no tectonic plates. The Earth functions, like all DRCBs, gyroscopically on top of vortices. And it's always going to be the same 6 vortices. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I can't see these vortices on Jupiter. Well, no shit. I'll explain it to you when I get to that picture. And guess what? Yeah, you guessed it. The Great Red Spot is one of the vortices. Oh, imagine that. I always did wonder why the Great Red Spot seems to be in the same spot every time the planet goes around in circles. It's like, if there isn't something of some kind of topographical structure there holding that vortex captive, What in the blasted heck is holding that frickin' vortex in the same spot? Well, it just so happens if it's one of the primary vortices for the gyroscopic nature of the DRCB structure of Jupiter, then yeah, it's never going to leave, ladies and gentlemen. It will always be, as long as Jupiter is rotating in a differential manner, it'll always be there. Always. Okay. Now you know why the Great Red Spot is the Great Red Spot. Yeah, its buddies are quite a bit smaller. Don't ask me why. But the weakest vortex in the vortical relationship of the southern hemisphere vortical rod on Jupiter is, guess what? You wouldn't guess this, but yeah, the Great Red Spot. It's weaker than its buddy on the other side of the planet, on the other side of the southern hemisphere. And that one is far more intense because it's connected to the Great Red Spot. So it's got the same rotation, but it's a hell of a lot smaller diameter. Yeah, that's the one you don't really want to get stuck in. And what did I say? I said they are anticyclonic. That means if you send a spacecraft down nearby, anywhere near the gravitational pull of either one of these vortices, it's going to get sucked in and pooped out. No, it'll never make it. It'll just get sucked in and torn the ripper apart, if you want to call it that. Well, anyway, I've blabbed enough. I'm going to go ahead and close this out because this is past my bedtime. I'm going to go down here and